Hello, and thank you for joining me for this video demonstration of Dell Command Configure. I'm going to provide you with a little background information on what Dell Command Configure is, and then I'm going to show you where you can download the software and how you can actually use it to make BIOS changes to systems in your environment. Dell Command Configure is part of the Dell Client Command Suite, which is made up of several tools. All of these tools are free and available for download at dell.com/command. You can use these applications standalone, like I'll show you today. We'll actually use Command Configure as a command line interface. We'll also use it through the GUI interface to create executables, which can be pushed out. And you can push them out with utilities like SCCM or Workspace ONE or whatever client management solution you use to manage your Dell clients with. As I mentioned, there's a lot of other very useful tools that are part of the command suite, but we're just going to focus on Command Configure today. And we'll show you both the command line and the graphical user interface, and we'll show you two different BIOS settings that will change, one from the command line and one from the GUI through an executable that will execute on the system. So let's go ahead and go to my demo system, and I'm going to go to dell.com/command. And from in here, you'll see the list of the Dell Command Suite applications that are available, the Client Command Suite. We'll select Dell Command Configure. And from in here, we'll go ahead and scroll down, and then we'll find the latest version of the software under Downloads. And we'll select the Windows version, and we'll go ahead and click on that. We'll download it and run it, which will start the install on my Latitude system that we're using here. Let's go ahead and close the browser out, and then we'll continue through the installation of the software. It should go pretty quick on this. And this could be automated. It could be pushed again with SCCM or Workspace ONE to the system. But we're going to install it, and we're going to select both the command line and the GUI. And now that we're finished, let's go ahead and open a command prompt so we can do some things with the GUI. So we'll go ahead and run that as an administrator. And let's go ahead, and by default, it should be installed over in Program Files. So if I just move my directory over to Program Files, inside of there, there's a folder called Dell, and then one called Command Configure. And then inside of here, the x86-64, you can see the cctk executable here. We'll go ahead and run that with a -h, which will be the help. So that'll bring out the commands that we can actually run from the cctk. One of them that's listed there in the middle is the setup password. And since I don't have a BIOS password set on this system, let's go ahead and set that from the command line. So we'll go ahead and run cctk-setup password equals fireport. And I'll go ahead and do that, and it's went ahead and successfully set my password on the system. I want to make some more changes, but before we do that, let's go ahead and restart my system and go into the BIOS so we can see what the BIOS settings are by default. So we go into the BIOS setup by hitting F12 when the system's booting up, and then we're going to move down to system configuration. And again, for today's example, I just thought I would choose things that would be really visible and easy to see. You can see USB boot support and external USB support are on. So I open the snippet tool there, and let's just get a screenshot. So go ahead and minimize that, and you'll see that they're both on right now, and we'll bring that back up later so we can pair it to the actual BIOS after we've made changes. So now I'm logging back into the system in Windows. Once I'm inside of here, I'll go ahead and run the command prompt again, once again as an administrator, and run that here. And then I need to go back over into that directory. Again, that directory should be Program Files, x86, Dell, Command Configure, and inside of there, again, there will be that x86_64, and that's where we should find the Command Configure Toolkit executable, or cctk. So now that we're over there, let's go ahead and run cctk. And the first thing that we want to do is disable external USB ports. Again, I just wanted to choose something that's very visible and you could see in the BIOS. So we'll run cctk and then the -H for help, and we're going to get the parameters that are available for USB ports external. Once we go ahead and do that, that will actually return the potential values. So as you might expect, the arguments are either enabled or disabled. Remember, they were enabled by default, and we took the screenshot of that. So let's go ahead and just confirm that by using the toolkit. We're going to do cctk -USB ports external, and that'll go ahead and return the current value. So we can see that it equals enabled. So it is indeed enabled. That reflects what we also saw when we looked at the actual BIOS directly. So let's go ahead and set a value. This time, when I use the cctk command, I'm going to actually assign the value of disabled, but now that I have a BIOS password, I actually have to input that as well. So I'm going to do cctk -USB ports external equals disabled, and then --value setup port, or VAL setup PWD equals, and that's the password that we sent in the first step of Fireport. Once we do that and hit enter, it says that the USB ports are now disabled. Let's go ahead and reboot the system and just confirm that in the actual BIOS. So we'll go ahead and reboot. We'll hit F12 during the boot up process, and that'll bring us to the boot mode where we can actually choose BIOS setup. And from in here, we'll move down to system configuration. Under system configuration, we have USB ports, or USB configuration, and you can see on the right there, enable external USB ports is not checked. Bring up the screenshot that we had from before that we took with the Windows snip tool there, and you can see before we made the change with the command line, that was enabled. You can see now that it is enabled. So a real easy way to go ahead from a command line, go ahead and make changes to your system BIOS. Let's go ahead and reboot, and let's go back in, and this time we're going to make change to the system using the graphical user interface. So remember, when we installed command configure and we go ahead and launch that, it created a shortcut on the desktop, and I'm going to go USB boot, and you'll notice in here this one will say USB no USB support. So we actually enable that to get rid of the USB support option. We enter a password. Remember when we did it from the command line, because we have a BIOS password, we needed to set one up. And now we can mask that and create an executable. So now that I've got an executable, I can actually execute it directly on this system, or I could push it how normally I would push executables to my system. Let's go ahead and I put it under my documents, and I'll just go ahead and run it real quick on this system, and it creates a log. If we look in the log file, I like to look here, and we'll look near the bottom just to confirm that we have success. It says it has successfully executed. So let's go ahead and confirm that again by rebooting one last time and going into the BIOS. And remember, we had the ability to boot from a USB thumb drive, but we said the no USB support functionality should be enabled, so we should turn that off. So if we go into the BIOS setup one more time, and we look under system configuration, and we can see USB configuration. Both those checkboxes have been cleared. Remember, we did the enable external USB support from a command line. We did the enable USB boot support from the executable that was created in the command configure GUI. So hopefully you found that this video useful, give you a little bit of introduction into what Dell Command Configure is. Remember, it's part of a suite of applications that are all free for managing any of your Dell commercial systems. If you need more information about this, please go out to dell.com/command. Thank you.